Let us continue with our discussion of Marx's theory. The theory says that capitalism is not a product of reason but rather that of a physical force. It is power. With this understanding in mind, let us continue. Before Marx, the study of economics had already begun. The study of economics is the so-called classical British economics, which reached maturity in the hands of two people, Adam Smith and Ricardo. The labor theory of value was established through Adam Smith and Ricardo, right? This labor theory of value finally made economics a science possible, thanks to the contribution of both of them. So, what significant discovery did Marx make in this context? Let's delve into the matter and explain it more clearly. In the market, where equivalent exchange takes place, we use money to purchase goods. This transaction occurs within the market, and buying is a fundamental market behavior. In the market, exchange is based on the principle of equivalence. In the past, when we had surplus money, we could use it to buy goods and then on-sell them, a practice that falls within pre-capitalist commercial activities. However, in capitalism, our purchases extend beyond general goods. We also buy a specific commodity known as labor power. Yes, labor power. What does it mean to purchase labor power? It means acquiring the capacity of an individual's intellect and physicality for a specific period, essentially buying their labor time. This is the essence of capitalism. This process operates in accordance with the principles of equivalent exchange within the market. You can choose to sell or not to sell, and I buy from you while you buy from me, all guided by prices, which are also regulated by the market, correct? If labor power becomes scarce, its price increases. If there is an abundance of labor power, the price decreases. What is the price of labor power? Wages, right? This is basic knowledge, the minimum understanding that Marx taught, or rather, it represents fundamental knowledge in economics. Now, according to the labor theory of value, everything is predicated on equivalent exchange. Capital purchases living labor, doesn't it? It also acquires previously produced commodities, including one specific commodity known as living labor. The idea that capital purchases living labor was considered a natural occurrence by Adam Smith and David Ricardo. However, what is the crucial discovery made by Marx? In reality, capital does not actually purchase living labor at all. What does capital purchase then? It purchases labor power. It is essential to grasp this distinction. If we were to assert that capital purchases living labor, it would imply a complete equivalence. You provide a certain amount of living labor, and in return, I give you the corresponding wage, correct? Wages represent the exchange of living labor for money. It is the currency exchanged for the provision of labor. However, Marx argues that this perception is illusory. What is the actual reality? Capital does not truly purchase living labor. Living labor, in fact, constitutes the use value of labor power. Like any other commodity, labor power possesses both a use value and an exchange value. Wages represent the exchange value of labor power, while living labor signifies its use value. Nevertheless, since the advent of capital's acquisition of living labor, a certain truth has been obscured. Capital purchases living labor and gets use value as part of the deal. Thus, through living labor, wealth is generated. Living labor enables capital to expand and grow. Consequently, living labor is perceived as the inherent power of capital itself. This perspective is particularly prevalent among entrepreneurs and capitalists who believe they have the right to accumulate greater wealth in this way. This belief is also widely embraced, particularly within modern economics, which firmly asserts the inherent growth potential of capital. In today's world, the power of capital to expand is truly remarkable. Capital has the ability to be monetized in the financial market and grow even without direct labor input. It is astonishing to witness how this illusion persists over time. Marx brought attention to this phenomenon through careful analysis. One thing is certain: when someone purchases my labor power, they compensate me with wages. These wages represent the value of labor power, not the use value of the actual labor performed. Living labor, which is the source of true value creation, is invaluable in itself. It is important to grasp this concept. Living labor should not be treated as a commodity but rather as the use value of labor power. And who benefits from the utilization of labor power? Capital. To illustrate this further, let's consider a machine as an example of capital. A machine is the result of accumulated past living labor that has taken physical form. Without proper human input to operate the machine, it would hold no value. Can we assign value to air? Interestingly, in certain circumstances, particularly due to environmental concerns, people are willing to pay for exceptionally fresh air. Capital, in any form, whether under analysis or criticism, does not adopt an ethical standpoint. Marx's analysis and documentation of capital should not be mistaken for a moral critique. Discussions on moral criticism and ethical values are irrelevant in this context. What we need to uncover is the underlying truth: how did humanity reach this stage of capitalism? At this stage, abstract labor has emerged as a dominant force, surpassing its role as a general exchange value. Even in pre-capitalist commodity economies, we had some understanding of abstract labor. It is inevitable that labor becomes abstracted in cases of equivalent exchange, right? Abstraction had served as a measure, a gauge of socially necessary labor at the time. It was merely a scale of measurement. But now, this scale has transformed into something else entirely: the power of the subject, growing autonomously. Consequently, the root cause of global inequality and human disparities has become evident. The dominance of abstract labor over concrete labor, this governing force, cannot be attributed to the sins of the bourgeoisie, the inherent evil of human nature, or the crafty rationality that seeks to conceal inequality through the guise of market equality. None of these explanations hold true. Therefore, when we encounter Bill Gates' lofty ideals, whose starting point revolves around a fundamental discussion of human nature, we perceive philosophical limitations. In fact, the origin and secret of capitalism should not be examined in the light of human self-interest. That is another equally big philosophical problem, which will not be discussed today. Let's look briefly at the nature of human self-interest. Ultimately, this instinct, if you think of it as biological, is not called selfishness, it is called an animal's self-preservation instinct. This instinct of self-preservation is neither good nor evil, right? Neither good nor evil, there is no way to evaluate it morally. A tiger devours a young animal, is the tiger evil? It is a natural phenomenon, right? Ethical standards do not apply, but it is still an overt expression of selfishness. In my home we have a 19-inch color TV, we watch it quite happily, then a 35-inch color TV comes to our neighbor. I suddenly feel poor. They have a 35-inch TV, I do not. It used to be okay, now it is not. Later I find that there is plasma TV, so I buy a plasma TV to be one up on them. I cannot stand the fact they have a 35-inch color TV, and I have only a 19-inch. That is not acceptable, and the sense of poverty is felt. The root of this sense of poverty is not biological in nature, it is social. Poverty is ultimately a social feeling. When you fight for survival, when you will die if you cannot find food, it is not really a problem of poverty, it is called the problem of animal survival. This is what is known as absolute poverty. We can see the sense of poverty in human beings largely comes from a sense of unhappiness. If everyone is poor, as everyone is rationed in our planned economy era, right? You not only have a ration of food, even tofu is rationed, you can only eat 12 cents worth of tofu a month, everyone is the same, will you have unhappiness? No unhappiness. So this is all a social issue. Selfish desire, the desire to possess unlimited material wealth, is not in our nature, but is burdened upon us by the logic of the current stage of social development. There is a limit to our natural size. Can our material desire grow without limit? It is impossible. We have only one stomach, right? Now you are rich, and you eat seafood every day, finally what will you realize? Money cannot buy a good appetite. Because natural scale stipulates that the scope and quantity of our material enjoyment is extremely limited. Today our endless material desire reflects the burden of the logic of the movement of capitalism. You may not do without this material desire, because otherwise value cannot be added to capital. Capital constantly stimulates all kinds of inexplicable consumption needs, so it may grow in value. We went to the Pacific Department Store on Huaihai Road, and looked from the first floor upwards. There they were all the things I didn't need. Of course I didn't need those women's cosmetics, but the variety of them amazed me. This is the age of capitalism. Capital wants to rule us in every possible way, not only during the time we work, how we feel, but also our leisure time and consumption needs. Our needs are manufactured according to the logic of capital. Once this process stops, capital will stop increasing in value, right? Once capital stops increasing in value as capital, it dies. However, the foundation of today's human economic life is not a stagnant pool of funds for consumption. When capital stops accumulating and fails to grow, that money is referred to as a consumption fund. Yet, the basis of our economic life today is not merely consumption, it is the relentless process of accumulation that must be maintained at a certain pace. The speed at which capital accumulates is determined by competition, and the very premise of competition is the continual creation of poverty. Significant technological advancements and new products swiftly permeate society, perpetuating this cycle. Marx's insight rings true. The core of modern poverty stems from the essence of contemporary labor itself. What does this essence entail? It signifies the dominance of abstract labor over concrete labor.